Why, hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another Silver Cow Studios game. This was actually unexpected. I knew this game was coming out, but I didn't know it would be right now, or last night, or today, or whatever. I'm looking forward to this. I love Time Tenchi. We're going in. I mean, just let's just look at this screen. Just look at this screen. All right, I'm going in. Let's see. Expect the unexpected. I'd heard this saying several times over the course of my life. And to be completely honest, it never made any sense to me, at least until recently. Now I've come to truly understand the wisdom in these words, because the unexpected has come to define my very existence. Oh my god. My name is Takashi Allerton, and I am, or was, a fairly typical guy. 18 years old, almost out of high school, and looking forward to being done with it. But now, I don't think I'm really that typical, and I'm starting to wonder if I ever was. It all started back when I was visiting my dad while he was at work. His name is Joshua, and he's a professor specializing in advanced computers, or more specifically, nude gaming technology. Ooh! He's always had a love for games, puzzles, and so on, so I guess it was only natural for him to go into a field where he would be creating new and more interesting games. As for why I was visiting, well, that was part of it was my mom. Her name is May, and, well, she tends to worry about my dad a lot, and for several reasons. Honestly, that man, why does he keep doing this to us? I think we've been through this before, Mom. Yes, I know. And yes, I knew what he was like before I even married him. But still, you'd think that a university professor could remember to do simple things like change his clothes and eat proper meals without me having to constantly remind him. That's my dad for you. He might be a genius when it comes to computers, but when he gets really invested in a project, he tends to forget stuff. You know, little things like eating, sleeping, taking baths, and changing his clothes. The essential things. So when he starts getting really wrapped up in his work, Mom likes to drop by his lab at the university and check in on him every now and then. Make sure that he stays grounded enough in the real world so that he doesn't get completely lost in his work. Of course, there's another reason why she likes to check on him. And as Mom and I were making our way through the university halls, we happened to bump into that reason as she was exiting one of the break rooms with a cup of coffee in hand. Oh my god. That's reason. What? Dr. Hughes. Why, Takashi, it's been a while, and Miss Allerton. Oh. Hello, Dr. Hughes. Hi, Doc. Now, Takashi, what if I told you? There's no need for you or your mother to be so formal. Just call me Candy. Oh, that's Dr. Candace Hughes. She's another of the university scientists, and she happens to be one of my dad's colleagues on his current project. She's also has an hourglass figure that seems like it has been pulled straight out of a comic book or a manga. And while she was dressed very properly with her lab coat and glasses and all of the rest of it, somehow she managed to wear all of these things in a way that made it very hard for me, or I imagine pretty much anybody else, to look at anything save her for huge mounds of flesh that were presently straining at the front of her shirt that I'm pretty sure was a size or 3 too small for a woman to be wearing it. It's been too long since you've both been here. Definitely too long. I'm glad to see that you brought the usual essentials. I smiled, and Mom grimaced at Candy as she looked at the suitcase I was carrying and the cooler with homemade food Mom had with her. The usual things Dad was in need of when he got so wrapped up in his work that he forgot about everything else. Plus a few extras, just in case. So if you don't mind me asking, but do you know where we can find my husband? Or do I even need to ask? No, you don't. He's right where you think he is, buried away in his lab, working away like always. Of course. I really am glad to see you too. Your husband may be one of the most brilliant men I've had the pleasure of working with, but you do know that his mind wanders when he gets lost in his work. I know, believe me, I know. With that, we started moving forward again, with Mom taking the lead. I was a short distance behind, and as for Candy, she was an even shorter distance behind me. What? Ooh, just like that. Two soft yet firm mounds of feminine flesh had bounced into my back, causing my body to burn with brief thrill of excitement, and my brain to burn with a less brief surge of embarrassment. Glancing back at the owner of the said mounds, I saw a look of apology flit across Candy's face. Oh, sorry, Takashi. I didn't mean to bump into you like that. Sure you didn't. You know, it's good to see that you took after your mother in terms of taking good care of yourself. So many people don't give the proper care to tending to their bodies. I know that husband of mine doesn't. I know, and that's a shame. He's really quite handsome when he's all put together. At this point, Mom glanced back at Candy and took note of the way she was smiling. Pausing to once again take in Candy's ample assets, she scowled briefly, just long enough for me to see it, before she reined in her expression. Yes, he is. With that, Mom returned her full focus to my father, and as for Candy, I could see her full focus shifting to my posterior. What? What? Well, whatever the reason, it's always good to see you both. Candy closed in on me again, and while I didn't look back at her, I could definitely feel warm breath on the back of my neck, once again enticing my body. Damn it, Candy. Honestly, I wish you'd drop by more often. By now, you probably figured out the reason why my mom is stopping by to check in on my dad. To say that Dr. Candy is a flirt would be woefully underestimate the situation, and to say that her body is serious candy for the eye would be a even bigger understatement. And while I have no proof, I think it's safe to say that Candy is far from being above going past the flirting stage. And Mom, she's aware of all this as well. And while we both know that Dad has his eyes for Mom and work alone, well, jealousy and logic aren't the best of bedfellows. And so, Mom likes to check in on Dad, both to keep him at least partially grounded in reality, and to scratch the itch caused by her paranoia. As for me, well, some guys my age would have dropped by just to enjoy Candy's attentions. But me, I had a different reason for being there. You see, my dad was a very mysterious being about his new project he was working on. Mom and I had asked him about it several times over dinner and stuff like that, but he had completely refused to tell us about it. Just kept saying that it was something new, something revolutionary, something top secret, something that would change the gaming world forever. Which, naturally enough, just threw a bunch of fuel onto my curiosity. Besides, like my dad, I love video games. I've been hooked on video games for as long as I can remember. I just couldn't get enough of them, and was always on the lookout for the next big thing, which just made the notion of something new and revolutionary that much more exciting. Well, here we are. Moving ahead of us, Candy took out an electronic keycard and slid it through the nearby card reader. Professor Alteron's rules. Nobody gets in these doors unless they have one of these, or he or I let him in. He's very insistent on that one. Really? What about the university heads? Are they okay with that? Are you kidding? They're the ones who had this new locking system installed. They don't want anybody finding out about what we're working on. While I still didn't know what it was that Dad and Candy were working on, the fact that they were obviously being so secretive, even in the university, just poured more fuel on the fires of my curiosity. But I kept my mouth shut on that case as Candy opened the door to the lab where Dad worked and pretty much lived lately. And as Mom and I followed her in, we promptly found ourselves in a veritable wonderland of computers, equipment, tables littered with shit, and all kinds of other stuff which we didn't really pay attention to. This place is so cluttered and God... Josh, are you in here? Professor At first, there was no response, which didn't make a lot of sense, and there was no sign of my dad, which made even less sense. Like I said, he basically lives in his lab when he's all wrapped up in a project. After a few seconds passed in silence, I started to wonder if maybe Dad had gone down to the restroom, or maybe he had gone to grab a snack at the cafeteria. I was about to suggest it as much when I heard a faint noise, like cloth brushing up against metal, followed by a startled grunt.
May? Candy? Is that you?
Who else would it be? Without another word, we stared in the direction of my dad's voice had come from. Navigating the various computers and gizmos and a bunch of other stuff I couldn't make heads or tails of, we soon found my father lying on his back, looking at us from halfway inside another piece of equipment that looked like an angry midget had taken a hammer As for my dad, well, he didn't look too much better. Professor Allerton, is that how you say it? Josh! Dad! A few seconds passed as Dad studied the three of us, as well as taking note of the things we carried, right before he sighed knowingly.
Oh, okay, I'll ask. Just how long has it been this time?
4 days! 4 days of late nights and running out to work before breakfast and coming home after dinner. When you even bother coming home? Or why? And without even bothering to change your clothes or take a shower or shave or anything.
Whoa, okay, Taki Candy, be honest with me here. Has it really been 4 days?
Afraid so, Dad. And trust me, I can tell just from looking at you. Honestly, I knew you were a workaholic when we got married, but this is just plain ridiculous. I'm afraid I have to agree with them, Professor. Which is why you're going to take a shower right now.
Whoop.
Without waiting for my dad to respond, Mom set down the cooler she carried, went over to where my dad laid, and grabbed him by the shoulders. As he issued a squawk of surprise, she started pulling him out of the technological hole he had dug himself into.
Hey, come on, May, stop!
Dislodging Mom's hands, Dad then started pushing himself up to his feet.
Look, despite what you may think, I am an adult after all.
Then why don't you try acting like one?
I'm acting like the breadwinner.
Breadwinner? What the fuck?
A breadwinner who's about to win his loving wife and his one and only son a lifetime supply of bread.
Don't you mean we're going to win a lifetime supply of bread, among other things?
Right, of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise, Candy.
While Candy was nodding with slight satisfaction, and Mom making a pouty face, I was making a point of not saying anything. I had learned the hard way that it was never in anybody's interest to get involved in one of my parents' discussions. They usually settled things on their own, sooner or later. No use in me throwing fuel on their fire. That is the 3rd time fuel on the fire. Takashi, please set the case down so I can straighten your father up.
Oh, clean up like a civilized human being. Or make progress on a major project that will change the world of gaming and make us a lot of money. I guess you're right. My priorities are awfully skewed. And what is that?
It's a little something I call soap. And I also brought you some shampoo, your toothbrush, and toothpaste, as well as everything else you need to get cleaned up.
Well, now hold on there. You can't expect me to
use the showers at the college gym? You bet your sweet ass I expect you to do so.
But I hate public showers. I've always hated those blasted things. I never used them back when I went to school. Why on earth would I use one now?
Because the only person who's going to be there has already seen everything you've got. So, you know she won't make fun of it. Now come on. I'm sure we can arrange for you to get cleaned up fast enough. For a while, it looked like my dad was going to protest some more, but I knew him. And I also knew that he had been thinking something along the lines of, the sooner I humor my wife, the sooner I could get back to work.
All right, fine. But what about Taki?
Yeah, what about me?